Okay, here we go. It's time. It's almost time. It's the Vikings season 2025. It's here. We're ready to play some real football games. Um, we're ready to find out if JJ McCarthy is the guy or could be the guy. Um, we might not know in 2025 if he's the guy. We might think he's the guy. We might we might have doubts that he's the guy. We'll see. Um, I think I've said this in basically every video that I've done throughout the entire off season, through preseason, all of it. It's whatever this Vikings season is going to be, it's going to come down to how good JJ McCarthy can be right away. Um, and the comparison I always go back to is 2000 Dante Culpepper. Um, you know, Similar situation, drafted almost the same spot. I think McCarthy was 10. I think Pepper was 11. Um, or maybe 12. And sat the first year, um, not because of injury. That was just he sat because you know, we were rolling that year with what Cunningham and George. But then turn and similar situation there too because that was a playoff team, actually a very good team the last couple months of the season. They got obliterated by the Rams, but of course, what did we do last year? We got obliterated by the Rams. I didn't even think of that parallel. Um, but and then so since the first year, handed the reins the second year. I mean, this whole time, this whole last year and a half almost, I've been pretty mixed on just the idea of JJ McCarthy. I wasn't like crazy about the pick. I wasn't, just because he, was a winner in college. There's been a lot of winning college quarterbacks who did not translate to the NFL. Um, Now they didn't have Kevin O'Connell leading the way. I mean, the history of football is littered with a lot of college quarterbacks who probably would have been more successful in the NFL um, if they had had better coaching from the start. I think, you know, everyone said it. McCarthy's stepping into as good of a spot as a young quarterback can. Um, I think whatever he will be this year will be in the future. I think it's I think KOC is going to be able to tap into the best of that, just like he tapped into the best of even Kirk and tapped obviously into the best of Sam Darnold, tapped into the best of Josh Dobbs for a couple weeks. It's like I don't buy it yet that he's like this absolute whiz with quarterbacks. I mean, he's obviously very good, but you know, I think he's going to be able to get the best that he can right away out of JJ McCarthy, and you know, I think this is a team that could, you know, even with like mediocrity at quarterback, would have a chance to maybe, at least compete for a playoff spot. And if because of the just the overall talent on the roster, and if they get more than mediocrity at the quarterback position, if they get something similar to 2000 Dante Culpepper, because you know, you know, 2000 Dante Culpepper, he was really really good. I mean, he took a team. I know 41 donut happened, and that was embarrassing, but he took a team, helped get a team with one of the worst defenses that I've ever seen to an NFC Championship game, and they won 11 games. I think they won 11 games, and then they kind of just lost out because I don't think there was much to play for at that point. But yeah, so I mean, if it, I don't have that level of expectation for JJ McCarthy this year. I just don't. Um, but if he can be close, if he can be even close to that, you know, I don't like the term game manager. I don't like that he's already kind of being referred to as like, well, if you could just be a game manager, the Vikings can win all the games. Well, I don't. Well, you drafted this guy, at, pick 10 in the first round. I don't want him to be a game manager. I want him to be good. I want him to be like some of these other quarterbacks from that draft class. Obviously Caleb Williams, ironically the first one drafted overall, he's you know hasn't looked the part. Jaden Daniels obviously was amazing. Was it Drake May? I think looked pretty promising. Who are the other ones? Bo Nix obviously looked pretty good. Penix got in there a little bit late in the season. There's a couple other guys I forget. Um, you know, there haven't been any outright flops yet. Um, I hope McCarthy's not the one flop. It would be a very discouraging thing, if he was. And I've always kept my expectations for this guy pretty low. Half this fan base seems like they've got him as the next Josh Allen. Like he's a guaranteed superstar, going to lead us to multiple Super Bowls. You know, the hype train for this guy is certainly higher than anything else I've seen. Like in the social media era, as far as like young quarterbacks, this is way more hype than obviously Ponder didn't get hype because nobody really wanted him, but Teddy got a lot of hype, but this is nothing like that. This is way more than that. Um, you know, I I think some people are setting themselves up because I think he's gonna have some bumps. He's gonna have some bad games. There's gonna be some defenses that he faces that are really good. But if he can be good right away, if he can hit the ground running like Culpepper did, he's got a much better team around him overall than I think they did in that 2000 season, particularly on defense. They can run off some wins, and I think overall it's still going to be largely, I would say, a defensive team. But obviously the year 3 of B-Flow, he's never had this level of talent, and he's managed to create some pretty good defenses. The last couple years out of inferior talent in a lot of spots. But they really beefed up that interior with Allen and Hargrave. Secondary. The secondary is a big question mark. Now, granted, if you're better up front, the secondary doesn't have to be filled with stars. Like if you're getting a lot of pressure, obviously, for the last couple of years, they've had to blitz all the time to get pressure. You're hoping that's not going to happen this year. Dallas Turner needs to have, honestly, as important as it is for J.J. McCarthy to hit, Dallas Turner needs to hit because he was I think he was even more universally agreed upon to be maybe not a can't miss pick, but like a really good pick. Flashed a couple times last year, didn't get a lot of playing time because they were, I think because certainly Gink was better than people expected, and he just didn't quite crack the rotation. He's got to do it this year. They need both of these guys to be good. But if that defensive front is really good, look, the secondary, I still think they got to go sign somebody. There's no, because we got Byron Murphy, then they're relying on Isaiah Rodgers, and Jeff Okudah, and I don't know about that's the top of your cornerback room, and then just as far as the secondary goes, Harrison Smith, I don't know what's going on there. There's been some sort of personal injury thing going on. Sounds like he's not going to play week 1. I don't know what's going on there. You got some playmakers at safety. Obviously, Metellus is like just the do it all guy. Theo Jackson stepping up. Hopefully, there's talent back there, but that's still the weakness. That's the weakness on the roster. Assuming McCarthy's good, that's the weakness on the roster. If the defense is like top 10ish, yeah, they can win a lot of games just based on that and just based on the overall talent on offense. Obviously, as we all pleaded for a long time, they went out and beefed up the offensive line. Sounds like Donovan Jackson, the first round pick, is looking like he's going to be able to step right in there. He's going to start. Darisaw coming back off that injury sounds like he might be ready. If he's even 50-50 to go week one, he'll definitely be back soon. You know, the Vikings get pushed around a lot in recent years. They play those physical teams and they get pushed around, and we all see it. And they took a lot of steps to address that. And I think they took good steps to address it. Some injury concerns on both sides. I mean, Hargrave was hurt most of last year. A couple of the offensive linemen, have had injury stuff. I forget which one didn't really play in the, or who was out for a decent chunk of camp. I think that was Fries, maybe. But again, I think they have depth. I think this is in terms of, this isn't just like, oh, we've got these backups who we know who they are, but they would never play for anyone else. I think they have some legitimately solid depth on this team. So if we do have some injuries, I think they can withstand it a little bit. But the defense should be good right away. Offense, McCarthy, we'll see. Obviously, there's also the issue at wide receiver, not having Jordan Addison for the first few games. I love that they went and got Thielen. Obviously, I think that's just a terrific plug and play move. Justin Jefferson. I gotta have a little bit of concern about Justin Jefferson with the hamstring, just because was it entirely that they're just playing it super, super cautious and not having him do anything throughout preseason and throughout camp. I mean, he basically has done nothing for a month. And Naylor's had injury stuff, although it sounds like he's ready to go. Hawkinson, full year now, full off season off of the injury he had. Hopefully he can, he had kind of a disappointing season last year. He didn't, I believe his only touchdown was in the playoff game. But, we need him to be a big time threat again. Love getting Jordan Mason in for the run game, to spell Aaron Jones a little bit. I think that honestly that was probably my favorite move of the whole offseason when they got Jordan Mason. Is KOC going to really commit to it though? Is he, we beefed up the offensive line. We've got another running back that we really like. Hell, Xavier Scott, maybe the star of preseason. Maybe he'll figure in. Are they going to really commit to it? Because KOC's been a guy, through his time here that he'll go away from the run really quickly. It doesn't take much for him to just abandon the run. Can't do that, especially with the young quarterback. You gotta really run. You gotta really commit to it. If that line is great, makes McCarthy more comfortable, helps you run the ball, control the game. It's all good. But there are injury concerns everywhere. But I think it's a very talented team, but it is a tough division, and I think if McCarthy is great right away, the NFC is open. You can go win the NFC. You can do it. I mean, fuck, the Eagles looked pretty vulnerable the other night. Like they don't look like like it's completely unthinkable that you could win a game. But I don't know. I know I'm rambling almost over 14 minutes. Basically, my pick, 10-7 for the Vikings. I think that's a reasonable pick, 10-7. Not picking them to win the division. I think Detroit's still going to pull out the division, but it's going to be pretty close. I'm not buying the Green Bay thing with Micah Parsons. He's already hurt. But they'll be competitive, and I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they will. Last year was a rarity. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs. Usually I pick them to make the playoffs. I didn't pick them this year or last year, but I'm back to picking them. I'm back to being a homer. But I think most people have seemed to be picking the Vikings to do pretty well this year. Maybe not nationally. I think it's more locally, which is kind of strange, but yeah, I think 10-7 is reasonable. And I'm just going to stop talking because I do some stuff. But yeah, I would say 10-7. I think this is going to be a season that we can look back on as a success if McCarthy is the guy, even if we don't like go to the Super Bowl. I think it's about building with McCarthy, and I think if he looks the part, this is a successful season.